Hello everyone. So my name is Alissar Kobeissi. I'm a feature film animator who's half Lebanese, half Palestinian Jordanian, who was born and raised in Dubai, currently living in Paris. I started out in animation not so long ago. I started learning in 2014, and 2 years later, I was lucky enough to get into the industry in a feature film studio in Brussels. And then not long after that, I was contacted by my dream studio, Sony. So I jumped on that boat like immediately and went to Vancouver for a while. And I worked on a cool project, and I met some awesome people where I was like really challenged, and I was constantly reminded how little I knew. And it's a nice place to be because you learn a lot. And yeah, after that, I felt like I was drawn to the culture, the art culture in Europe, and specifically France. So I moved here 3 years ago. And the way I got into VR is a little bit funny because it's been something I've been wanting for a while, but I was always too guilty to get for myself. And I got it as a gift 2 years ago on my birthday. And I actually got it. I've been wanting it for Beat Saber. I discovered it and I got super hooked. And yeah, I was after that in an accident, in a climbing accident, and I was put in bed rest for a while, which is how
Oh,
I
wow.
discovered Quill. And I got hooked immediately. I went down in the
That's crazy.
vortex.
What happened during the climbing?
I fell like from a 3 meter climb. It was not
Oh,
the top
God.
roping; it's a bouldering, so that I had no ropes or anything. So I was in a bit of an awkward position, and yeah, I fell really badly on my ankle, and it twisted like in all the ways. I'm still recovering from it. Actually,
Wow. And that's 3 years ago, or
2 years ago.
and you still feel it?
Yeah. I still have not gained what an ankle should do, and I still have pain.
Wow.
It's a long
Damn.
process, and especially with the COVID, and there were at some point in France strikes and stuff like that. It was very hard to like find places for physiotherapy and to actually like
I bet.
actively work on it.
Wow.
Yeah, so your tutorials, Goro, just they were just my medicine during those couple of months. I was just like
Oh,
eating them up.
awesome.
And just the first time I created a bouncing ball in that space, it was just so crazy because I could just like make the ball myself. I put eyes on it. I put a beard on it, and it was just bouncing there. I was like, this is crazy. I did that like so easily. And when you're in 3D animation now, you're often given what you animate, and so to me it was like, okay, a new door has been opened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so without further ado, I'm gonna talk about Space Blues a little bit. So, for those of you who don't know Space Blues, it's a four and a half minute short film that I created for Inktober 2020 by combining all the prompts together into one cohesive story. I'm just gonna play the trailer a bit, and then I'll tell you how I came to that crazy decision. It was last year, like a month before October, and I was just laying on a beach in Croatia, and I was just thinking about the prompts, brainstorming for ideas, and looking at like the third row, like between chef and shoes. I kind of like just instinctively connected the words, and I just thought it would be like a cute little story to have like a little crab be stuck under a chef hat. So a fish comes close to it, and like it comes towards it, and it trips something on the way. So the crab gets scared, and it digs a little bit in the sand. So the fish, like in return, also hides a little bit, and then it just does a cute little dance to like reassure the crab that like I come in peace. And then they both hear music, and they look up to the surface where it comes from, and they see like colorful
Mm.
rays striking down the surface, representing the music. And so they like both kind of start to like go up to see what that is, but the crab is stuck still under the cheshire. So the fish finds a sunken shoe, it grabs it and gives it to the crab. The crab holds on and it pulls it out, and they both swim up to the surface together. I didn't think of an ending because just the last two prompts were just ruining every idea I was having because they're just so dark. So I pitched that to my girlfriend. I told her like, "What do you think of this?" She was like, "Yeah, that's a very cute idea, but why don't you connect all the words?" And
Yeah.
that's when I was like, "That is crazy," and that I could not stop thinking about it. So that's how it came to be.
So
Um,
how soon before October 1st did you start planning this whole thing, like this whole idea? Was it like a week before or
it was
like,
about 2 weeks before that I was
okay,
brainstorming ideas. Yeah, like that came
cool.
to the decision of like connecting them all together.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and so the first idea I had was the post-apocalyptic flood. Like gangs and mafias of fish now dominate the world because the flood had completely overtaken Earth. Like we crossed through like old ancient human civilizations and war wreckage and a lot of a lot of potential in that universe. And we see like fish go about their way and how they manage around that universe. Except that it was too dense of an idea and of a universe in terms of everything. And I needed something that would be lighter to carry from one prompt to another. And that's something that can kind of like get renewed every day, because otherwise it's depending too much on environment and not enough on character. And it would have just been too dense to create, and with a full-time job on the side, that would have just not been possible. So I went on my next idea, which was the reincarnation simulator. I thought, okay, what would it be like to be born every day as a new entity? It's something I think of that would be cool if it really exists, so that us as humans can practice empathy and like live in the shoes of either other humans or other animals or creatures or whatever. So I thought, okay, if I have a character, like go through the simulator, it can transform into every prompt, and that can be simple enough, and I can enjoy animating that because I love morphing animations, and I don't get to do that enough in 3D animation because yeah,
Yeah, that would have
it's
been
not.
awesome too. Like it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that idea, and I thought of it like properly towards like the middle of the prompts, and then I felt like it was not working so much. I guess I could have put more thought into it, but thinking of this idea, I started to think of what kind of character I'd want, and for some reason, it just felt kind of natural to have an alien, because an alien can, I don't know, we don't have like a specific shape or an idea of an alien. There's a lot of potential for design and creating like different things with an alien. And so I was like, okay, an alien. And then why would an alien want to transform to a fish or a wisp or a bulky dude who missed leg day or a rodent or a blade? Like, what do all these things have in common? So I thought of like, okay, maybe this alien wants to come to Earth. It's practicing, so it can come to Earth and blend in. So it's practicing its powers, its transformations, and its camouflage and all of these things, and how it can like get out of certain situations. So I went ahead with that idea, camouflage 101 at Earth University. So I thought it could be like some sort of obstacle course that the alien goes through, and it's to it's like to practice each transformation and each obstacle it can encounter on Earth. Uh, yeah, so I had kind of the ideas of the first third. I thought it would be like a classic obstacle course for training. Then this I knew that around Rocket is where the story would actually transform into something more of a, okay, like now the alien is ready to go to Earth and see what that's going to be like. And that's I had a lot of ideas for after that on what kind of adventures the alien would go on, but I didn't stick to anything specific because the ending was still it was still a problem. Every story I was coming up with was ending extremely gloomy and dark and bland. So I left it open for them. I was like, thinking of half of it already is good enough, and we'll see how it goes from there. So pre-production, it's actually just the day before for a few hours. I started to think of the character. So thinking of design, I knew I wanted something that had like the cute formula, big eyes, big head, tiny body, uh, like small floppy limbs, and things where like the like where we don't see the limbs like pop out too much out of the body, because for me like graphical, I still want it all throughout to have like a nice graphical shape for the character and nice silhouettes. At the same time, yeah, I was like trying to find characteristics that I can carry through all the transformations that I'm gonna have the character go through. So here is all the variations I ended up doing during October
That's so cool.
of the character. And
Man, this really screams for, I know you didn't have time, but this screams for an SXVA character.
I actually did end up send Nika version.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. Purple team all the way.
Nice.
I think you're in purple too, no?
I
don't know if you saw the last.
A couple different ones.
Oh yeah.
Because Goro's got Unit 7 and Escargo.
Ah yeah. You're playing several teams, Goro.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll see how that goes. I'm excited. So I tried different characteristics for like the base, like default form of the alien, and like different ways of showing whatever it can look like. And like I like the one with like the multiple limbs all around, but that would have been just a pain to animate, and it wouldn't really advance the story. So I had to give up a lot of things like that. But I knew that the color is something that I'm gonna always keep consistent, the blue purple gradient. And then I decided on having antennas to carry through because, they're cool, but also they can wobble when he's idle. They can cushion snappy animations. They can also like be this kind of key element during the transformations. It really helped me smooth out spacing and stuff during the transformations. And also they actually helped advance the story along. So for example, in the first two boxes on the left, I used them as like kind of electrical chargers before transformations. So before every transformation, the alien actually like lets out these kind of like electrical sparkles between the antennas, and it actually just looks nice. And in the third act, we actually see that it's through the antennas that the two aliens connect. There's a spoilers for those who have not seen it. So, the blue alien and the pink alien end up connecting and harnessing their like color energy together through their antennas, and it's actually what sets them free and gives them that energy to float out of the cage and basically save themselves. So that was fun because it was absolutely not planned, and it makes me wonder what the story would have been like if I had given it like a trunk or a tail instead. So for the style, I basically just fetched some. I wanted something minimalistic and very limited in the color palette. So I just fetched like a few sketch designs from the internet, and I just tried to like I stuck my character on top of there just to see how it would blend in. It all still felt too complicated, not just in the sense that I would have to create it in Quill, but also I would have to actually think of the physical space in every shot, and I think it would have been too demanding, and especially if I had to carry it through, I think it would have constrained me too much in the story and in a lot of ways. And I actually like that I didn't have to like I like the fact that we can sometimes keep things abstract and not like have to define too much what we're seeing, because it leaves room for imagination and interpretation. So I went
I
in.
think actually that's what I love about your project on Space Blues is that it is so abstract, like you reveal the environment as you require it. And it's just really, really unique and really speaks to the story. It's really, really fun.
Thanks. Yeah, it's cool because also like I'm sure people interpreted like different things in different ways, and it's fun because it engages you on another level, and
Yeah.
and at the same time it was perfect because I was on a tight schedule, so it was convenient in all the ways. So I went in Quill and just tested like this took me like a couple of minutes just to like sketch out quickly what different environments can look like and what's the least I could get away with. And like I tried outline, no outline, black and white and colors and things like that, but it still felt too much. So for those of you who have seen Space Blues, you can see that I ended up with a line. It was just a line for the first third of the short, and I like that kind of style of like the 2D line that goes as the character advances, and it grows under the character. It has this kind of flickering 2D effect that we have like from old animations, and at the same time, like at least in the first third, the lines only appear where the character needs to be, and it's a little bit like those kind of games that we see. It's like a flat composition. We see the character on an adventure going from screen left to screen right, and you would just see like these floating lines, and then they have to jump on them and stuff like that. So it was just like different inspirations, and it was good enough at least for the beginning, and then we have different settings. So there it is, 31 animations in 31 days. Yeah, we see the character go through its like quirky transformations in this abstract kind of space setting, and it goes jumping from planet to planet on different adventures. It's enjoying its time. Then we see it reach Earth, and all of a sudden there's this other pink alien that we learn is trapped. So they basically use each other to save themselves, actually. And we don't know if this is really the ending or not, but they leave this planet, and we don't know if they're going back to their planet or not. But basically, they save themselves from this evil chef who has been trying to harness their power and their color for evil purposes.
So looking at this is super amazing to see it all in thumbnails and stuff. But was this already like just one quill file from the get-go, or did you split it up into multiple files and then put it together later?
It was all one quill file.
So it's like continuous from the get-go. Like you didn't have to. Okay, wow.
I still did have to like in post-production stitch stuff together, just in the sense that sometimes I didn't like it. Like you would not fluidly see one prompt go to another in specific cases because I had a specific thing in mind. And I didn't want to rush it. So in 2D renders, we didn't really need to see that. But for the quill experience, for the theater, I did need to go in there and stitch it up together and like maintain the scale consistency and all that.
It's basically each prompt has a group folder, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I have a screenshot. You'll see later. It starts out really organized, and then it's a complete mess. Because
as it usually is.
Always. And it just like the story gets crazy as we go along because it gets more complex in the sense that we have groups, and then the groups are doing things, and then the groups are going into groups, and then we're flipping the whole universe. Like at some point the whole universe is flipping. So like in the third act, the whole file is just upside down, and in the end it's like impossible to have it be organized. But it was super cool because like just doing this, I would have never thought I would probably would not have done this if it wasn't for Inktober and if it wasn't for Quill. And it was cool to be on that kind of challenge because just like if you just stick to it, by the end of the 31 days, you have 31 things, regardless of what they are. It's like something really cool. Like it's powerful to have that if you stick to it.
And you have to like think about, you did a 4.5 minute short film on the side while having a full-time job in a month, right? That's kind of like insane. Like nobody would believe that who works in animation.
Yeah. No, that was crazy, honestly, with the scale of the things I was able to do, because honestly, like this is this is every idea I probably had. I did not have to like tone
Compromise.
it. Yeah, I did not have to tone it down or compromise it because of any technical obstacle. And that's the thing that I love most about Quill. It completely liberates us from technical concerns, and until we
Yeah.
reach optimization, of course. That's a separate project. But I mean, you can just literally in the moment do anything you want, the way you feel it, and it's like I feel it's just soil for creativity, and you can just follow what you
Totally.
think of and what you want. And it was most of what I did here. Like most of this animation is improvised because I was able to properly straight ahead animate this stuff, and we're just so used to over planning in feature film that this was a freedom I was really enjoying. It was really something I was enjoying. But improvised animation can be a talk for another stream because it's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that you learn a crazy amount of stuff doing stuff like this because, for example, for Storm, this is real. This exists, by the way. Space storms are something called geomagnetic storms, and they're these kind of there's tons of billions of plasma in a type of current that just hovers there outside of Earth sometimes, and they're super scary, and they probably don't look like that. I think I interpret it more as an Earth type of storm, but it's not far from this, and it's real. So that was interesting to learn about. And other challenges were probably Trap and Dizzy, because for example, Trap and Dizzy are the character animation is happening inside the rocket that is swirling around the storm, and to character animate this, it was hard because we cannot follow the character while we scrub through the timeline. So I had to have a group that is swirling around the storm, and then I would take out the character from that group as on the side. I would character animate it, and then I would drop it back into that group and see if it works. And it was a bit of a back and forth kind of thing, because also if you don't drop it in on the same frame that you took it out of, it's not it's not synchronized. And also another little fun fact: around the time I did Trap and Dizzy, the copy paste keys function in Quill had not been released yet. So I was like, okay, right now I have a spawn that is swirling around with this group, but I had no idea how I'm gonna make the spawn that goes all throughout the short, because there was no way to copy paste these keys. So towards the end of October is when there was the Quill release, and that completely saved my butt for this one.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And for Dune, for example, the slippery, when the character is slipping out of the tunnel of the cave, that was super fun because I felt I had hidden the top of the cave, and I basically just grabbed the character and turn on the auto key, and I just I felt like a kid, the kids who play with their toys, and they're woo, and then you're doing it by yourself. You're kind of puppeteering it, but it was literally that. But it was so funny because I was just watching it slide, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna bounce here, and I just felt like a kid playing in a game, and it felt so organic to do it, and it was much easier to do than I thought it would be.
So the Dune scene is puppeteered?
This one here.
Or only the fall?
Yeah,
only the fall, or also the walk?
No, not the walk. It's after it slips that it's sliding out the tunnel and then down into the sand.
That's awesome.
So yeah, some things were harder than I thought, and some things were easier than I thought. So it was a fun experience. The way I approached each shot was more or less in a type of order. So I'm using dig as an example. So first I would this is where I had from the prompt before, which was rip. It was right after the chef puts the alien in there. And right now the liquid is turning purple because it's turning blue, because it's absorbing the color that it's taken from the alien. And I knew that in this prompt, the chef is going to he's going to watch the color turn blue. He's going to put the gear on his back, and he's going to dig into the island, onto the other side, into the dark side of the island. So what I needed to create for this is the dark side of the island. So I went in and just designed it, and then I place it where I need. So in this case, it goes under the island because then I'm gonna flip it. But in other cases, it's sometimes like if it's like it's not always a setting that I need to create for the prompt. Sometimes it's another character when it transforms. Sometimes it's an outfit like armor or fancy. Sometimes it's a prop. So yeah, it's different every time what I need to create for the prompt, and then I place it. So it's like for the different for the transformations, I knew that, for example, the character is going to go from left to right, and then it's going to go down. So I would put the end pose where I needed to end, and then I would so I'd place it there, and then I would jump to character animation. So in this case, it was the chef comes down, and he has the last pose. He just puts the cauldron on his back. And you guys probably didn't notice this because I just noticed in preparing the stream. I noticed that he has no right arm all throughout that part. Like even towards the end in Quill right now, he has no right arm.
That's funny.
That is. Yeah, and then prop and set animation. So here we see the cauldron go on his back, and then we see the set flip, and he comes out the other side. So yeah, it's a bit of a back and forth kind of process because yeah, there's still sometimes some character animation that comes before or after. I'm sorry for the sound. I live next to a hospital, and yeah, like it gives it basically it's sometimes a back and forth, but most of the time it's the order I followed. And in the end, I would like just quickly do the effects I needed to explain the story or the idea I'm going for, but nothing that was too fancy because, well, this was demanding as it is. So like here, I added like the smears and the fluid following, and then we see the sand kind of just like get thrown out on both sides of the island. And a bonus little slide is what the spawn looked like when I did the flipping animation, because we actually, like for optimization purposes, eventually I had to like have one disappear while one appears, but at the same time I used one of Dan Frank's super cool tricks that he used in the Neon Jungle. So at some point, I don't know if you see it, but as the island is flipping, we see there's a few strokes in front of the prompt that are there to like soften the shapes that we are seeing when this is happening. So it's not flickering in our eyes. This kind of stuff was fun to play with.
That's cool. What I didn't notice when I watched it in VR is also that you're actually scaling down the spawn area, right?
I did,
while during the transition, that's really clever.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cheat. The way I approached character animation was really quick. So this is a bit of a time lapse of the banner animation I did. I would start with the pose of, like, for example, this is the pose of the dance. I was always careful to have like clean silhouettes, so like the arm does not look like it's popping out of the body. It has a clean graphical shape. Also, I'm super happy to have this function of the render camera now, because when I was doing the Quiltober, I did not have it, so I could not animate to the camera. But it was fun because in a way you're not restrained by what the 2D shape is, and it's cool to get out of that mindset. Yeah, then I just like wobbled with the grab tool the butt and cleaned the shapes that the leg did with that. Afterwards, I just like, it was really nice to like have the follow on the head, because you kind of just like mimic the motion of what the head needs to do a little bit, and then as you see that it's the right time, you just actually press and the head starts to do the motion you want with the rhythm you want. So it's really quick and easy. After that, there was no way around it. I had to frame by frame the arms doing the dance. It was on a separate layer, but I actually ended up doing just one arm and then mirroring for the other arm and just choosing like a different timing for when each arm is going to do its move.
Yeah.
Oh man, if I can do this in 3D, just like just translate and rotate and do everything with your hand, it's something else.
Yeah. So instead of like doing like real time grab tooling, you actually controlled every single frame in terms of silhouette and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I would do like a first pass, or sometimes when it's not so close to the action, I would like do something with the grab tool, just for the sake of time. But I did go in there in the polish phase after and like clean up some of the shapes, because sometimes they just get so distorted and so stretched and stuff like that. But it is super helpful because it actually gives you an idea of what timing you're going for just by doing that. And sometimes it's even a bit of a base of my animation, and then I just build on top of it and I just clean some spacings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to like just smear from one pose to another, just freely like that. Okay, I just want to talk real quick about this prompt, because I was asked how I approached it, the radio waves. So first, well, it's constructed of 5 loops in total. And I had started with the design. So I had like just designed this. So what the blue alien would look like as a radio wave, and the satellite kind of line design. And then I went in and started to kind of animate backwards, because I had the final design and I wanted it to appear from nothing. It was just satellite. So let's say the first group of circles is the head, the second is the torso, and the last is the lower body. The first loop was to go from the head to the body. So it's the first group of circles that has actually been transformed into the second, which is the torso. And I frame by framed a new head popping out to replace the old one. And then I did the same thing, the same process. So I copied the frames and added the lower body, and I had it get pushed out while a new head was created. Then there was the third loop, which was adding the lower body and having it fade out into space. And well, it's getting pushed and fading out. And I had to also recreate the last head. Before the last loop was the head popping out, and then the fifth loop was the final one, where the head is like the face is idling, while the body radio waves are just like being shot out into space. I had no idea how I was going to do this. Actually, I was just in there in Quill, and it was just it's what seemed to be logical. And then the ending of how the radio waves get sent out of the satellite was around the time I discovered Yari's advanced effects, I think it's called, class, and I just had to try it, and I was like, okay, this is the opportunity. And I just like had the radio waves go from point A to point B linearly. I baked the animation, just messed up with the shapes, and had a blast doing that. And it's just so cool to be able to. It was a great moment for me as an animator to like. I was affecting the shapes, or basically I was animating a shape through time, and to me that was another level, because you just select all the frames and you see you hit ghost. You show all the ghosts, and then you're like, okay, at this moment it's gonna look like that. That is new.
Yeah, I love that, like with the select all frames and then distorting it where you need it, because it's so intuitive, right? Because you can actually, without the motion, you can actually define what it's supposed to look like in certain moments. So I like this shot a lot. It's very abstract, and especially in VR, it's really memorable, this one. Really cool.
Yeah, it was a hard one to capture in 2D, because in VR you kind of just travel with that wave, and it's kind of sometimes happening around you. It's something that is hard to take out of VR. This was important for me. So, making the character likable through pantomime. So the fact that this was obviously short without dialogue, and the fact that he was a simple character with no facial design was a lot of challenge, because it would be hard to portray character without a lot of these things, and it's very important for me to like portray personality in anything I animate, and I think it's something like one of the most important things in animation to feel like this character, like you feel something in this character that is not just any generic character. And so what I was able to use with what I had was playing with the timing and the rhythm of how he moved, and yeah, like having him be like super bouncy and upbeat and like snappy in his motions. You already get a feel of the fact that like this is a little bit of a happy character. It's going around. He's going around. He's doing his thing, and it just gives a feeling. At other moments where I went a little bit farther than just timing and rhythm was like, for example, here where I could find moments actually to display personality, I would do it. So like the way he lands after he was a squirrel was like a clumsy animal or a clumsy baby, you know. And here we see that he's like he runs and then he jumps on the outpost and strikes a pose like he's doing some role play. And the last one is like, see you suckers, like whatever moment you can just like get the character to express something that is not directly advancing the story is just adds a little bit of fun to the thing. And here, yeah, the lower row is where I tried to portray a bit more of the thought process or emotions, even though I only had eyes. You can still kind of like with head moves and blinks and just like just squeezing the eyes and having that kind of timing of like, whee, it worked. It just shows a bit of expression and yeah, it just gets us a bit closer to the character, and especially that it's the main character that we follow for a while. We have to like it. So that was a challenge, but it was a really fun one to take on. Alright, so what I would have done differently. A few things. Well, because some things I would have done differently, but I did end up fixing them a little bit in post-production. But other things that were like much bigger in terms of like direction or stuff like that was, for example, this, which is the animation style that the chef has. And he's kind of the villain. He's like this douchebag who rips our main character and puts it, like shoves it in a cauldron to steal its color and its power to like use it for whatever to get more powerful. And he's very perky. He's very upbeat and he's very happy. Like he's almost just floating there to the cauldron, and he has this very cute little face. And I think I just animated him with the same feeling I had while animating the blue alien. And I still would not have wanted him to look too much like a villain or act too much, move too much like a villain, because I still wanted it to be a bit shocking when he rips the alien and puts it in the cauldron. But yeah, I think I would have played around with different ways to like portray subtly the contrast between the two characters, at least these two main characters.
Totally. Yeah, I think he's so bubbly, right? Like it's almost like he's going on a vacation or something.
Exactly. And he's on an island, and he's like, yeah, it totally looks like that. He's just fishing an alien and shoving it in a cauldron. Visually, it's a bit disturbing to see that. And I had not the first time I actually like really noticed that is when we were talking about it. I think it was around the time after October. And
I think because I think I told you that I'm a bit confused. Is he actually evil because he seems happy, right? So,
yeah, and then I realized that. But that's another challenge I really had working on this stream actually, is because most of these ideas or how I approach things technically or creatively, I was just so in my own head for all of this time that like I think I skipped the stage of putting things in words. So like I was just going from whatever things I was imagining to immediately doing them, and it's really cool because in a way sometimes we try, like when we put things in words, like when you wake up from a dream and you're trying to like write it down or say it to someone, it's never the same as when you experienced it. And it's because sometimes words just put these kind of limits, or we start to infuse it with logic and rationality, and sometimes it's not that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's also like what I love about, working in Quill is that it enables you to really just be in the moment and just go ahead and do stuff without like worrying about technical difficulties and stuff like that. And like sometimes you might lose track of, story or character moments, but then again, the whole deal with Inktober is to be spontaneous, and to be like to have those little happy accidents. So, like I don't think it really hurts the experience. It's more about like it's part of the story of the experience, right? Like that you did the Inktober's and connected all the topics together.
Totally. Yeah, and it's like I feel like we get to prioritize creativity, which is not something we get to do often because first of all the technical hurdles, but also when money comes in and you start to have to like prioritize getting things done. And so this is like a really cool place to just like get in there and just like try anything that comes to mind, whether it makes sense or not. It's just definitely fun, and it's cool because it like everyone who can really just like create whatever they can think of is gonna be unique because it's gonna be so personal. It's very interesting to see that.
Gilgamesh is asking, I love 2D animators' work in Quill. So much character. Did you have any experience in 3D animation before Quill?
Yeah, well, it's actually my it's what I do. I'm a feature film animator, but I'm a 3D character animator. So yeah, I don't get to. I'm actually not great at drawing. So this is where I bridge all of what I like to do and what I can do. It's Quill because I think a lot in 3D space, and Quill just allows me to just draw in 3D space. And
so you've never done 2D animation professionally. It's all been 3D, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, something else I would have done differently as well would be I would have added probably more tension around the time that the shoe when the two aliens combine their energy and then they fuse into the shoe, that they strike down and that kind of kill the power that was growing around the chef. And I think I would have added more fast-paced, I would have had more climax around that time, just so that we feel more the power of that moment when it gets crushed down. And also, I felt like in the third act, the pacing is a bit slow, and it's because it's only when I stitched it all together and I was able to watch it all that I was able to see that. And by then, it would have been a mess to try and like chop it down because different things happen at different moments. And yeah, I think maybe looking back at it now, I would have maybe from time to time have tried to like look at it like objectively all together and seen where I could have maybe in the next prompts pasted a little bit differently. It might be easy to say now because I'm out of it, but yeah, pacing is definitely something that is hard to manage when you're like deep into every shot and not taking the time to like just watch it all.
Yeah, I think it's a fine balance, right? I think if you would have done more planning in terms of like maybe I should board it all out and stuff like that, then all of a sudden you're constrained, right? Like you lose a little bit of that freedom and spontaneousness of the prompts, right? So I think I like it's probably easier when you look back now to think like that, but I think because there's a huge time constraint and there's like this uncertainty about the prompts and stuff like that, that planning this all and then pacing it all might actually become difficult, especially with a full-time job, right? Like without it, absolutely. But I think you probably didn't spend much time every day on this, right? Like you only have certain amount of hours. So.
Yeah, it was a couple of hours every day. Yeah.
Super cool.
So it's something anyway to keep in mind for like this. I like to think of this anyway because even if we don't get to like we criticize our own work, but we don't have to always feel bad about the current work. It's just something to learn from, and then for the next stuff you apply it then, and then it's great.
Only.
So post production. That was after like properly sleeping after Inktober, like for a while, especially that at like around the last 5 prompts is when they announced a second confinement in France, and it was during I think Dig or something like that, and I had to lose a day to move because I was gonna spend confinement elsewhere because Parisian flats you cannot stay in them. Like you cannot just stay in them and not go out. So it threw me a bit off schedule, and it was a bit hard to like get back to it. But then like thanks to the VR community and specifically you, Goro, and Tyler, like you guys were like really good support. You motivated me back into it. So I caught up eventually. Like even like, I think it was still around October or towards the end of October. I just caught all the prompts, and just took a good rest before coming back to it and like putting it all together. So what I first started with was stitching all the scenes together, like I was saying, and with like connecting all the prompts like seamlessly with the right scale, with the right transitions, and everything being like we can actually watch it all in one piece without any glitches. But then I still had to I still could not properly evaluate that without being able to actually follow the action. So I had to also right then create a mega spawn that was gonna be the spawn that takes us throughout all the story, and that's gonna like rotate around things and flip with stuff and stuff like that. And that's when I was able to like actually watch the whole thing all at once. Like you can see actually here in these files, they're all like super nice and clean and organized. You have each prompt in a folder,
amazing.
And I have like first act, second act, third act. But then you see the third act this is like just one of the not so terrible examples either. But it's just things are disappearing and appearing, and things are flipping together, and it was like even with trying to clean up the file, the third act was a complete mess. So I just embraced it. Polishing, I went in and like cleaned the character animation, whatever I did with the grab tool that was a bit too messy, or like I added some like clean effects like contact, for example, or shadows sometimes. Like when the character is like running on the sand, you could see the sand like kind of just like the particles floating around the feet or whatever interactions that were happening. I also prettified float, because it was around the time where both characters are floating around each other and then they turn into Shu. Shu was a super hard one, guys. I'm saying it out in the open. It was one of the hardest prompts, and it had no logic in any of the scenarios. But it ended up being what it is. So they float and they become together with this big mighty Shu that saves them from this evil chef. And like I cleaned up how the characters float upwards, and I even like left some nice like traces behind, like kind of magical. And that's something I loved as well doing in Quill. It was amazing to create effects and like have these nice things that just follow or just like connect the shapes and the spacings and stuff like that. Because sometimes I can do like a crazy move in animation, and I would not have to spend hours trying to get that shape with my actual character. In some frames where we don't even see, I could just literally like draw the shape I want, and no one would see that, and that's like really powerful to get like seamless, nice kind of motions with the spacing that I wanted. So yeah, polishing was really nice, and I tried really, really hard not to think of optimization when I was polishing, because I was trying to separate the animator in me and the technical optimizer later, just so that I can like properly give the short what I can and what I would like to, and then I'd worry about what I would take from it after that. And it ended up being a good approach because I did not have to remove that much. So it's always better to like put more than not enough. So optimization.
Yeah, absolutely. You never want creativity and technical difficulties get in your way of creativity, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I used to work like that too. You just do what you want, and then you worry about optimizing it, you know. And if it means you have to remove something, you can do that, you know, after. But or you can recreate it in a better optimized way. But it's always good to just push the boundaries first, and then you find the solution how to solve it technically.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my mantra.
Yeah.
So then,
all red.
So then, yeah, you can see how beautiful optimization ended up being. Which was actually did not turn out to be that hard. I did it in a day. And
oh wow.
It was crazy because, well, cleaning the file helped a lot with the memory. Like I had a lot of duplicates and spares of different characters or whatever. Like sometimes I'd want to try something, so I would just duplicate what I have. I'd hide the previous version and I'd try it, which is also super easy to do. And then I would keep that. So yeah, I had a lot of stuff to delete, and that helped a lot with the memory. For the draw calls, it was for me it was a game changer. Watching Nick's optimizing advanced what was it? The advanced optimization class that Nick Vlad did. It was a game changer. It was really cool because specifically for one of the tips he mentions, which is when your layer or your object like fades out with opacity, it still counts as a draw call even if we don't visually see it. And I did not know that. So just cutting the scenes.
Yeah, closing the spans, right?
Yeah, just exactly. Ending like cutting the end of every layer, where we don't see it anymore. That removed most of my draw calls. As well, when I would transition from one scene to another, I had like a I think it was just subconscious, but watching Tyler's time lapse thing, optimized thing in the lifetime achievement class was really cool because it like he just switches from one to another really seamlessly while not having both at the same time. So it was really cool because sometimes I would need to transition from one scene to another. I could not have both exist at the same time, like not even on one frame. So sometimes I'd have to like have some item, like some shapes appear from one scene and some things disappear from the other. So it happens gradually. And another times I would just like kind of flip it over one frame and have something come in like in front of the camera that would make it look like it's clean, but actually it's not. It's just flipping over one frame.
So was your work on lifetime achievement already done at this point, or were you doing both?
I was done at that point, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did not have that much of a break either, so it was a bit intense. Which is why the second confinement was really, really hard for me because I had been like intensely in VR for months before that, and I was just waiting for that Inktober to be over to like kind of just explode out into the world. And then I had to stay home for a month and a half with like no desire to be in VR because I'd been in VR for so long every day. I was dreaming about Quill every night, of course, because it was what I was doing until I slept. But it was cool. I was having the craziest dreams. Then I jumped into sound effects and music, and it was a fun challenge because it's really not an area I know about at all. Like it's not my area of expertise, and I had not had to deal with it a lot in my life. So I just started to play with like Foley, and I learned so much about how most of it is just cheated stuff. Like most sounds are not really used for what we think they're used, and it was fun to play with that. Like when a character is walking, sometimes it's just like sounds that someone makes with their mouth, or just depending on the texture. So it was really fun to see what kind of sounds I could get away with. For the music, I had chosen a piece that had really nice highs and lows, but it was longer than my short. So I had to like edit down the length and like kind of cheat places so that I can have the highs in certain moments where like we either enter a new setting or we were changing the ambience and stuff like that. So I hope you guys didn't notice those areas where things are cheated in the music.
Oh, so the music was completely post. So you chose the music after and not during the process?
Yeah, it was after.
It's amazing how well it fits though, the theme. Like it really goes well in harmony with the visuals. It's awesome.
It really does. It was one of like a friend of mine, Anika, she's here. She helped me choose that piece. It was actually the first one she recommended me, and after looking for a while after that, I was like, nope, nothing is sticking as good as this one. So
it really works well. I like that one.
Yeah, it just has this kind of whimsical feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went ahead with creating like the title, the credits, and the trailer, and then I just sent it to Quill Theater.
Is that handwritten in Quill, or is that as PNG?
It's handwritten in Quill. Yeah.
Nice. Super
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was fun because the like space was in like those what was it? It's the thick kind of 3D stroke, and blues was the flat one. And
Mm,
in VR you can actually see that different depths. So I felt like it added even another layer to like logo
yeah,
design.
yeah.
um, so yeah, I just want to say quickly why I chose to do Inktober. First of all, it's because I finally could. Quill kind of liberated me from like having to like struggle to express my ideas on paper. Also, I wanted to get technically better at Quill, which I definitely did because I encountered a lot of situations where that I was not expecting, and I had to like problem solve often. I wanted to exercise the creative muscle. I wanted to have a story challenge because we rarely really think a story through. Sometimes we just like playfully think of something and never really follow it all the way to the end. And community challenges are fun. It was really cool to do this alongside you guys and seeing like what everyone like creates for the day after or the same day and stuff like that, and just doing it alongside you guys was like a really nice journey. You never know what you end up learning, and that was super true. Like I used very weird references for weird prompts. Like this is the tooth bridge, if you guys remember, for the character to cross because he had a gap, and I used a popcorn reference to have the teeth pop out of the fire.
I mean, that's another memorable shot for me because it was kind of like an, what the F moment for me.
Yeah.
Like how does your brain work? Like why does he pull out his teeth, throw them down? Like I love that. Like it
It
was like
absolutely
really
makes no
cool.
sense. But that was also one of the challenges, like fancy teeth and throw, like these three together. It was extremely hard.
But it's actually, like it's such a memorable moment where he grins and he throws his teeth.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense, but I think it makes sense because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make sense, and you kind of just buy it. You're in there with the character, and it just looks like he knows what he's doing, so you kind of just go with it.
Yeah, I love that teeth bridge.
This one, like for the disgusting cave, I used like a lava lamp reference, mostly for the shapes that they make because they're like, really nice and like graphical. But then of course I had to like they are not even going in the same direction I wanted, and they don't have the same weight. But it's cool to use different references for different things, like then you apply them to your own work. And the flying squirrel, I never really looked at how they move, and it was really fascinating. And
Yeah.
that little trip in the end was like, okay, I'm putting that in there. It's so good.
Yeah, I love that you show the references in this way because I think the biggest misconception of, especially when you go to school and stuff is people take reference images too literal, right? Like, for example, I want to do a lighting where light comes through the window, and then they look for an image where light comes through the window. But you can get so much information from other stuff that communicates the same thing, right? So I think this is like the perfect example on references can come from anywhere because you don't have teeth pop up, so you will then look for references. And I love that you have the popcorn reference there, and the slow motion is amazing.
Thanks.
But yeah, references.
You get the spirit, or like
Yeah,
the visual
exactly.
shape kind of that inspires something, and then you apply it the way you need to apply it to your own work.
Yeah, super cool.
Other things I learned, they might be obvious, but you guys are jumping into Inktober 2021, so I'm just gonna mention them anyway. So I got to know my brain a little bit better. It's a pretty weird place up there. Bouncing off ideas off of someone makes all the difference. Like honestly, like sometimes you're either blocked, or even if you're not and you just communicate your idea, sometimes if you're blocked, it helps, like someone can help you. Or if they just like give you an idea that you don't directly want to take, it can spark an idea of your own just by getting out of your own head and seeing what else it could be. It really breaks a lot of barriers.
That's a good moment to ask Gilgamesh's questions. Did you have a lot of happy mistakes or happy accidents that influenced your idea?
That's a good question. I think I thought of it already. Like Rocket was a bit of an happy accident because like the way that he like zips and swirls around to create the rocket for me, I started that idea as a reference for how I wanted the character to move around. And I just was like, actually, it looks cool to keep it abstract. Like he's a blur, and he's just going around creating that like extension of an outpost. So I kind of just kept it that way. Creativity comes easier when the muscle is practiced. Definitely, it's like momentum. It's a wheel. The more you're
And agree more.
yeah, because you're like in that mood all the time, and it just like keeps coming. Boundaries are essential for creativity, and mixing different ones lead to originality. Like kind of like what Tyler does with mixing like different prompts for Inktober. It's really cool. Time constraint challenges prevent self-doubt, overthinking, and obsessing over details. I'm sure all of you guys connect to this one. I definitely do. So yeah, just lets you like kind of just keep going and not overthink your stuff, even if it doesn't make sense, because yeah. And space storms are coming for us all. That is true.
Most important part.
Yeah. And my final one is just like a little bit about like it's just like go out there and like life is full of inspiration. Build your like mental library. These are like just things I went into my phone and like put together in a slide of things I photographed myself, not like through at different times. I'm like, these things are just so weird. What are people thinking? Like these are like these like actual carvings in stone. It's a whole area in France where it's like that. Like here, I wondered. It's in Lebanon. Like who does that? Why are these things in the air, dangling from a tree? And like for example, the first one. This is from an exhibition in Amsterdam, and I didn't understand the point of it, but it just looked so cool. And I think subconsciously it inspired the disgusting cave that has all the blobs. Like this one is from an exhibition in Croatia, and it's an artist who does a lot of this kind of art, and I think it inspired radio waves.
Nice.
That's cool. And like recently I've been getting into macro photography, so I think I'm gonna do some more weird stuff for that soon. But it's just to say, like, you know, like follow your weirdness and like look for these kind of quirky things in the world, because there's so much of them. And yeah, let them help you come up with your own ideas and interpretations of the world. And yeah, that's it. Happy Inktober 2021, guys.
Super cool, Alissar. This was extremely inspiring and definitely like helps to get my creative juices flowing for 2021 prompts. It's always a challenge, right? It's a lot of pressure. And once you start, you feel the urge to like, I have to keep going. And, you know, I love seeing like people from our community just jumping into this, because we all had different angles, right? Like Jono does those amazing little short stories. You did like one full-blown short film. And I think, Tyler, you were doing the D&D stuff, right? And I was doing mostly the black and white stuff, just like prompt by prompt. But I love seeing those different angles of how people, you know, approach these prompts. And yeah, Jonos are usually my favorite. Like they actually make me laugh out loud many times.
Yeah, it's like a joke every day.
And he manages to somehow always surprise me with a plot, right? Like there's always like a twist in it, and that makes me laugh. And I started waiting for that, you know, when I watch this stuff.
Yeah.
You wait for that moment.
Special.
Yeah, totally. But unfortunately, I don't think he's joining this year, right? So I'm a little bit bummed. But
this year he said he's too busy.
Yeah, but yeah, super cool stuff.
We'll be watching your stuff, guys, and it's always super inspiring to see how everyone interprets these things differently. Even visually, how they portray them is always so different.
Yeah, and for people that haven't done it before, you know, I highly encourage you guys to jump on the Inktober train. It's a perfect way to really, you know, practice your creative muscle, like Alissar said, and practice quill, practice animation skills. You know, like it's a really good routine to do something every day. And the only way to improve is just by practicing as much as you can. Try to use this as an opportunity to join if you have the time, because it's super awesome and really makes you forced to think outside of the box. So hopefully we get more people excited for Inktober this year.
Yeah, and the fact that a lot of people are doing it on the side is definitely encouraging as well. Like you're part of something, and it kind of keeps you going.
Absolutely. this was super, super cool, Alissar. Thanks for your time. And if you haven't watched it, make sure to go to Alissar's creator portfolio. I'm also going to link it in the recording so you can actually watch Space Blues in VR. I actually have one more question, Alissar. When you started this project, did you actually think about designing it for VR and to release it in Quill Theater, or was it an afterthought?
No, I definitely knew I wanted it to be in theater, in Quill Theater. Yeah, it's
That's
a shame
cool.
not to have it be there, because even if you build it specifically for video, for 2D images, you're still losing
Yeah.
so much potential. And there's just one more thing. I think you asked me, or someone asked me, what did you do when you are not inspired? And my answer is simple. I had no time not to be inspired. And that's what's great. It just keeps you going. Like you're not inspired, but you're still gonna have to come up with an idea and do it. And it just keeps you going, because maybe this day you're not gonna have the best one, but the day after you will. And the fact that you're like on schedule just does not demotivate you for that.
That's the spirit. Everybody has like a creative block or is uninspired. I have that feeling quite often, right? But then I just force myself to do something. And, like if you really are completely uninspired, completely blocked, you can always do like a study or take a prompt literal and come up with something, right? You can always do something. And
Exactly.
as long as you stick to that, great things will happen down the line.
Totally.
A lot of times just getting over the hump too. Like there's going to be prompts that you're just like, this is a dud. Like this is not going to end good, and it's okay. Just next one's going to be great. Then it's fine.
Exactly. Making mistakes and failures are always part of the process, and it's better to do something and fail than doing nothing and not to progress.
Yeah, and sometimes you surprise yourself as well, because you think that this is going to be like a really bad one. You're not feeling it at all. And then you do this first thing that comes to your head that makes no sense. And then it ends up being a toothbridge, and it's so random. And like, and it's like,
and yeah, the toothbridge is golden. I love it. All right. I don't think there's any questions, Alissar. I think that's it. Thank you so much for running the class.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Thanks everyone for coming. And don't hesitate to just message me later or wherever if there's any more questions, or if you just want to share what you had interpreted about any of the prompts or of the whole thing or whatever, just feel free. Thanks everyone.